Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to the Tommy John studio in New York City. I am your host, Charlie DiSturco, and this is Green Dot Daily, coming to you live every single weekday at 3 p.m. Eastern on the Action YouTube channel and the Action app. The New York Jets and Minnesota Vikings square off in London in less than 48 hours. Can Sam Darnold continue to excel in his revenge game opportunity as the Vikes look to remain undefeated? Chris Raybon and Stuckey will hop on to discuss. They'll also, of course, hear my Sharp Tank pitch as I look to go 6-0. That's right, still undefeated after Jackson Smith and Jigba came through for me on primetime yet again. We'll also have Mike Calabrese on for a little game of bet or pass. We'll talk Ashton Genty's video game start and his near 200-yard over-under prop for the weekend and much more. But we'll start by sipping our tea out in England, where the Jets and Vikes square off at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. The Jets were favorites on the look-ahead line, but after a loss to Denver have since fallen all the way to about a 2.5, 3-point underdog. Favorites in general have cleaned up, going 34-10 and 1 straight up and 30-15 ATS all time. Of course, that road game that you see down there does not affect either of these teams in this one, as we welcome in Stuckey and Chris Raybon to talk more about this game ahead. Now, guys, I have to ask you, right? We have the opportunity. The Vikings, they were underdogs, have flipped to a favorite after seeing what happened with the Jets in Denver. It feels like maybe this is a little bit of an overreaction just based off the weather and the Jets' slow start. Raybon, I'll ask you, are you backing this trend where favorites in overseas games in general have really excelled?
Nah, I don't think that's not a strong enough trend. I mean, no trend is really that strong to just blindly back it. But nah, I do think that the Vikings are going to be due for some regression at some point. I mean, we really saw it start in that Green Bay game, but I'm also not convinced that the Jets kind of in this hectic week where there's a lot of issues that kind of reared their ugly heads in that Broncos game, and really just throughout the season. It's just that they played the Patriots, they played the Titans, so they weren't always tested this year. But I just don't know if everything gets fixed, in this week going overseas. So inside 3, I'd actually lean Vikings. I know that Stuckey disagrees with me, so I'll let him, make the case for the New York Jets. But I just don't see enough to really want to back the Jets right now against this Brian Flores defense and against a team that has enough weapons to give your defense some issues.
Right, Stuckey, I mentioned on the look-ahead line, the Jets were slight favorites, and then obviously over the course of Minnesota beating up on GB and then the Jets losing against Denver, that line is obviously, kind of drastically shifted. Is this a buy low spot on the Jets in particular?
Yeah, I think so. If you can get a 3, I need a 3 here, even like a juice 3. I think the look is the Jets. I mean, remember, it's the NFL. Teams are, generally speaking, never as bad as they look from one week to the next. I mean, I think this is just too much. Now, there are things that I'm concerned about, for sure. Aaron Jones, could he have a big day here on the ground against the Jets front that's just not the same with some of their losses up front and then subsequent injuries? Aaron Rodgers. Now, behind that offensive line, they couldn't do anything against Denver. But the thing that I do like about this matchup, Denver has a really unique defense in that they're blitzing. They're actually blitzing more than the Vikings this year and Flores. And they're sending 5 as much as any team in the league. They're blitzing on first down, second down, third down, fourth down, top 3 rates in the league. And they're playing, aggressive cover 0, cover 1 on the back end. And they're able to do that with their secondary. I'm going to see a similar type of defense, different coverages on the back end because the Vikings don't have as good of corners. So I think that's going to give Rodgers some opportunities to hit some plays here. Would like to see them use Allen more. But I think it might be actually beneficial for the Jets to see, these 2 blitz-heavy defenses in back-to-back weeks, right? They didn't have the right game plan. Now, will Hackett make the right moves? I don't know. But I think that's actually a net positive. The Jets saw that. What they were doing didn't work. It's time for them to make the adjustments. And look, the Vikings have been great, and they've done it against a difficult schedule. Their coaching staff is as good as it gets from top to bottom. O'Connell and Flores are pure class. But yeah, I think at 3 here, with a low total, and the Jets coming off that poor effort. I think it's Jets or nothing.
Yeah, I totally agree with you that I think it's Jets or nothing in this one. And like last week too, the weather did not help the Jets, and obviously Rodgers a little bit.
Penalties too. I mean, they have 13 penalties in the game.
Yeah, it was insane, and granted it was a messy game altogether, mucked it up. Knicks had negative passing yards in the first half, end up going on to win it. So it'll be interesting to see. But speaking of this London game, guys, I actually have my Sharp Tank pick for this one. But before I give it to you guys, we have to look what happened previously on Sharp Tank. Jackson Smith and Jigba over 47.5 receiving yards on Monday Night Football. Another primetime sweat for both of you to join me on.
This is not a passion project of mine. Player props in the NFL, not something I dabble in. So for those reasons,
how about that?
I'm out.
Yeah, I'll invest with you, Charlie. I like this spot for the Seahawks. Geno Smith has gone to Detroit twice. He's thrown for over 300 both times. They've scored 37 or more points. Yeah, I agree. I think this is a good day for all of the Seahawk wide receivers.
Hello, Sharps, once again. It is I, 5-0, DiSturco, Chris Raybon. We went 2-0 together after cashing JSN. Thank you for texting me about 5 minutes ago, to be exact, that we actually hit our bet. But you got the text back. It's time to roll up the sleeves on this one. We're getting dirty. We're going with Garrett Wilson over 52.5 receiving yards. You can get that at -110. So I'm looking, Sharps, for a 1-unit investment on this one. I think this is as great an ever an opportunity to buy on Garrett Wilson. We saw San Francisco, Tennessee, New England, Denver, all great defenses and a hard cornerback matchup for Garrett Wilson. Stuckey, you kind of alluded to it. The Jets might be able to make some big plays against Minnesota. I think Garrett Wilson is front in line for this one. He's still getting volume, 8+ targets in 3 or 4 games this season. Heck, he's been over this number in 2 of 4, and that's with tough matchups. We're underdogs against the Minnesota Vikings. Garrett Wilson, maybe a little bit more pass-heavy script. He's versatile, can line up in the slot, can line up on the outside. You can't really cover him, bracket him as much. Minnesota, 4th worst when it comes to slot points per game allowed. Garrett Wilson lines up in the slot 40% of the time. This is an electric bet, one that could actually hit in the first half and even in one go around. And you look at previous receivers against Minnesota. Malik Neighbors, over this number. Deebo Samuel, over this number. Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks. The list goes on and on, Sharps. So I ask you, Stuckey, you said the Jets, it's a little bit of an overreaction here. How can they bounce back against this splits, get the ball out faster to Garrett Wilson, and make him make some plays? Chris, I'm begging you. We went 2-0 together when you hop on with me. We can make it 3. And, I haven't lost yet. I'm not letting you guys down. I understand this is not a passion project for you, Stuckey. But at a certain point, numbers don't lie, and DiSturco has been perfect. So ride with me, invest with me, Sharps. What do we say on Garrett Wilson?
I mean, that DiSturco doesn't miss. You're referring to yourself in third person. A bit of a turnoff there. This is not, I told you, I like to invest in passion projects. Additionally, have you seen my bets lately? I don't have any funds left. I found this in my suit pocket, a 10 euros. That's all I have left because I haven't been able to. You know where I'm going after this? I'm going to the currency exchange so I can get some actual dollar bills to bet on the Jets. So I'm already going to be invested here. You don't need my investments, and I don't have any funds left. So
I can help you. I don't
have anything to put on it, and I'm already invested. And I told you, I'm already invested here. I like to invest in passion projects. I like to invest in founders and originators who don't refer to themselves in the third person. So, I'm rooting for the Phillies too, so I don't want to be aligned right now. So for those reasons,
God, that's just a low blow after yesterday. You see, Raymond's got the Mets hat on. I mean, that was a huge home run.
Yeah, damn, catching strays.
Yeah.
I heard you say Pete. You were out on Pete Alonso.
I'm still out on Pete Alonso. He still hit a great home run. Yes, but this is also has nothing to do with the New York Jets and Garrett Wilson. Listen, Stuckey, I'm telling you. You're saying you have no fun.
You hitting your bet will be good for me. I would I encourage you to make this bet. I think you're on the right side. But I will say, all the receivers that you listed, you know, if you look at the game script, I mean, the Vikings have been way up in a lot of games, so teams are just chucking late. So I'm hoping that's not the case here. But I do think that Wilson will get his opportunity. So I think you're on the right side. But
all right,
for all the reasons I listened before, I'm out.
At a certain point, Stuck, you got to realize, maybe player props could be a passion project of yours. If you're running out of money, you can come with me. I would have given you a nice little cash flow coming. Raybon, you got some money to deal with. You're a Mets fan. Come ride with me. Garrett Wilson, over receiving yards. It's a sexy pick just like JSN. What do you say, my friend?
So if I'm going to bet on an over for a prop, it has to be a real home run. And a couple of yours in the past were. You're obviously 5-0.
All of them were.
But this one I do have some concerns with. Number one, there's about a 65% chance of rain. Those games are always ugly in the morning in London. You got a 40-plus-year-old quarterback who was in a really sleepy spot. I think they got upset by the Giants when he was with the Packers a couple years ago. So there's a lot of variables that I just don't know how they're going to respond to these circumstances. So on top of that, when you look at the Minnesota Vikings defense, yes, they've given up some yards. As Stuckey alluded to, they've gotten up, so they're going to give up yards. But one thing that they are is number 3 in DVOA against number 1 wide receivers. But when they really give up stuff is number 2s and number 3s. So you have weather kind of telling me shy away, and then you have metrics telling me shy away. So for those reasons, I'm out. Hate to do it to you, but no text this week.
Well, listen, I mean, I got a text today. It wasn't even this week, but Garrett Wilson
today is this week.
He can line up. That's true. Line up in the slot, Raybon. He could line up in the slot, wide receiver 3. Then he can slide down there. They're not going to put the outside corner on Garrett Wilson. We're going to get a low A dot couple of plays. You mentioned the messiness. I'm telling you. You can get a breakthrough 30-yard reception off just a screen to Garrett Wilson, let alone the big play threat. He's going to get the targets. I mean, I don't know what else I have to do to get you guys to just believe in me every week. 5-0 is not enough.
I mean, I'm just saying, there's a lot of question marks about this because you also have Mike Williams getting healthier. Lazard is still Rodgers' favorite target because he knows him from Green Bay. He's literally on the worst page with Garrett Wilson, and he's going against the number 1 pass defense statistically and the number 3 against number 1 receiver. So, yes, you're on the right track with this bounce back, but everything else is not really a slam dunk here. 52. I mean, he could catch 6 balls for 50 and a touchdown and go on. So I gotta have more value here.
Oh, my goodness.
For those reasons, I'm out.
I can throw the ball off the backboard to myself and slam it through again for the 6th straight time. I mean, I don't know what else I have to do to get you guys on board every single week. I think I've earned the opportunity, at least as a potential founder that you guys can invest in, that I have the pedigree and the success and the resume thus far. But I guess I'll have to table it to next week, win another one.
8-0. If you get the 8-0, I'll become interested.
Okay,
I disagree. I don't think your past performance in these overs is going to predict future performance because I don't think the process for this one.
I still would like to put the challenge out there. Get to 8-0.
Okay, if I get to 8-0, Stuckey, and you don't invest with me, we're gonna have some problems here on Sharp Tank. But all right, fine. I'll put a pin in it till next week when I am 6-0.
Plus, I haven't been investing and you've been winning. Let's not switch this up. Until you lose.
That's true. I guess that's true too. Every time you say no to me, I feel a little bit better that we're not going to go down together.
I'm just looking out for you.
Yes, Stuckey the Mush apparently is what they're calling you right now. But listen, we'll put a pin in it to next week. You're not actually a mush. I want you to ride with me. But if it's not this week, maybe it's next week. But I can't let you guys go. You heard my best bet of the weekend. I need your best bets of the weekend as well. Stuckey, you're targeting Sunday Night Football. We got Pittsburgh against Dallas. Pittsburgh at home. They're slight favorites, and you like them to roll here.
Yeah, I think 3 weeks. The only winner. I was giving you Titans. I'm all off that. I finally gave you a winner last week on Sunday Night Football with a home AFC North team. Why didn't I get a video montage of that pick like you get every week? So let's stick with that home AFC North team on Sunday night. But I do like the Steelers here. I look, number one, it's just like it's a classic rah-rah Tomlin spot off a loss at home in prime time where the Steelers have been very good. I think they've covered, I think 8 or 9 of the last 10 in prime time. What does that mean? That means like the defense is going to come out inspired. And I just like this matchup for Pittsburgh. They want to run the ball. They want to run. They want to be a run-first offense. And that you could do that against Dallas. And by the way, they faced some tough run defenses already this season. Dallas is the worst in the NFL. I mean, they're 31st in EPA per rush efficiency, line yards. And guess what? There's no Micah Parsons, no DeMarcus Lawrence. Not only are they going to miss them from a pass rushing perspective, but also with their run defense. And without those two, and there's also some injuries in the secondary, this is a bottom of the barrel defense. So I think the Steelers will be able to play how they want to play. And Justin Fields has been good. Has command of this offense. He knows when to take his shots. He knows when to use his legs to extend drives, extend plays. And he's playing really well. I think he's like 11th in EPA plus completion percentage over expectation. Dak, on the other hand, is 22nd. And a lot of that is because of what's around him. The Cowboys can't run the ball. There's no run game to speak of. The offensive line is struggling outside of their 2 guards. So what does that mean? Known passing situations against this Steelers defense that can tee off, and who's probably going to make his presence felt? The inevitable TJ Watt, probably have a game-changing play here. And it's just like defenses know where Dak's going to go. And, how much can you go to Lamb? And I think these linebackers are best suited for when they're getting after the quarterback, which they'll be able to do here. Pitt's linebackers have been a little bit susceptible to explosive runs. There's no explosiveness in Dallas's rushing attack. On the other side, Dallas giving up a ton of explosive runs. That's where Pitt has thrived. Pitt also likes to run up the middle. That's where Dallas has really struggled. So I think this is a really good matchup here. And the kickers are equal. Yeah. Maybe Aubrey has a bigger leg, but you have Boswell, who is the highest accuracy in NFL history, his most accurate kicker, and you're kicking in one of the hardest stadiums in the NFL, if not the hardest. So kind of neutralize that advantage for the Cowboys. It's a little in the weeds, but it's not immaterial. So yeah, I like the Steelers to get it done at home.
Definitely feels like a good buy spot on the Steelers after, we were all fading them against the Colts. It felt like the fade Tomlin spot. Now you get the rah-rah Tomlin spot. It all comes back around. Raybon, you're targeting the Denver Broncos against the Las Vegas Raiders. Probably the ugliest game and the one that I would say don't watch if you could. But listen, that's where value's to be had, and you like the home favorite here with the Broncos.
That's Patriots Dolphins, by the way. Don't
that's
slight
true.
that.
Yeah,
that is the worst game, maybe.
Okay, second worst.
Last decade.
Second worst.
I mean, to be fair, at least they have like Tyreek Hill in that game. But so this might be the worst. But the reason that's part of the reason I think Denver's a little undervalued here. Everyone's probably expected them to come back down to earth after they surprise win over the Bucs, surprise win over the Jets, both of them on the road. But they're going to be motivated here. They haven't beat the Raiders in, I think, 8 or 9 straight, so they're going to be motivated. I think they're the far better team, especially with all these injuries for the Raiders. So the Broncos are 18th in overall DVOA. They're top 5 on defense and special teams. Vegas, 27th, 25th on offense and 25th on defense. So I think there's a clear difference between these two teams anyway. You factor in that Denver is one of the hardest places to go play, some of the biggest home field advantage. You factor in that this defense is probably being overlooked. Number 1 in yards per play allowed, top 5 in pressure rate, number 1 in sack rate, number 2 in tackles for loss. And Minshew, he goes from a 96 rating to a 62 under pressure. You got Riley Moss, top 12 graded corner right now at PFF. Surtain's playing really well. And Vegas looks like they're going to start Alexander Madison this week. And I mean, I know he's had some good runs coming off the bench, but we know how it goes when you start Alexander Madison. They're dead last in rush success rate. And Denver is just one of the best defenses, period. So if Denver can take away the pass, and they've been playing really well, safeties, corners, everyone scheme, and you have no Devontae, then the Raiders are kind of just sunk, and their defense is also going through it. On top of that, a bunch of injuries there. So I think Denver's just faced a really tough slate with Pittsburgh, Seattle, the Jets, even Tampa Bay. So I think Denver roles here. So give me the Broncos.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the Peyton coaching advantage is definitely a huge plus too. It feels like you said motivation. The Broncos definitely have it over the Vegas Raiders, who are, trying to deal with players making business decisions and kind of quitting on the team from time to time, looking to go elsewhere. So definitely getting, a motivated Denver team to continue to play under Bo Nix, who they just beat the Jets. So now able to beat up on the Vegas Raiders feels like a pretty good look as well. So, all right, Chris Raybon, Stuckey, 2 home favorites, a couple of ugly ones, but we love to see that. Best of luck this weekend, my friends, and I'll be back coming for vengeance after Garrett Wilson takes it home for me.
I hope he does.
Good luck.
Over to the land of college football, and let's take a look at some of the key storylines ahead of Week 6. Number 9, Missouri, looks to remain undefeated as they head to College Station to take on A&M as a slight underdog. And how about them Wolverines? Since the quarterback changed to Alex Orji, Michigan has won 2 straight and has jumped inside the AP top 10 ahead of this 2024 national championship rematch. Of course, both head coaches have since left the program, but the talk of the town has really been about Ashton Jeanty and Boise State. The running back has totaled 845 yards and 13 touchdowns in 4 games this season. He takes on Utah State in what should be another video game level performance, as we welcome in Mike Calabrese to talk more about Jeanty and the CFB week ahead in a little game we like to call bet or pass. So before we get your best bet, Calabrese, we have to talk about Jeanty, the video game numbers and all the sliders that are turned up for him, bouncing around, unable to be tackled. His yardage prop for this game is 188.5. It's something that I don't think I've ever seen before in my life, frankly. So I have to ask you, Ashton Jeanty, does he go over this number, bet or pass?
This is a gambling elevator that only goes up. This is absolutely a bet. This number, I know it seems like a lot, but when you dig into some of his stats, he's breaking more tackles than most teams will in the entire season on his own through 4 games. When you look at the pace that he's on, he's going to obliterate Bijan Robinson's broken tackle record according to PFF. And this Utah State defense is listless against regular runners. They're bottom 15 in run defense in the entire country, but critically 123rd in team tackling. So all those runs that go for 5, 6, and 7, he busts and turns into 75-yard touchdown runs. So the fact of the matter is he could get almost to this entire number in 3 carries. So as someone who's taken bets and been on the other side of the transaction a few times in my career, I will say I would be terrified to be holding under tickets for Ashton Jeanty, really, in this game and the rest of the way.
Yeah, even when you stack the box, he just seems to somehow bounce, and then he's free for a 60, 70-yard touchdown. It literally feels like, Derrick Henry against like a high school football team, the way that they just literally can't bring him down through the opening weeks. And this number, I mean, if he goes over this one, you'd expect, 200-plus yards the next week?
I mean, the best comparison that I can give, Charlie, it's, when those mascots play the little kids at halftime and they're just bodying kids and people are bouncing off left and right. He's going to go over 200 in this game. And the final thing from our folks over at Pro Football Focus, they give out an elusive grade. Last year, he led the nation in elusive rating. He has doubled that. So he is so far above even his best from last year that this is kind of getting into Shohei Ohtani territory, where it's like we need to start coming up with new superlatives and new records and new milestones, because that's where he's headed.
Yeah, he's literally on pace to set, the unbelievable amount of records. And it seems like, especially with the schedule that he has, that it is a possibility for him to continue to keep going. But let's move on to the second question I have for you. College Game Day is heading to California. The Golden Bears have a matchup with Miami. They're 10.5-point underdogs, and there's a lot of social media buzz ahead of this one. The Cal fans like to get active in social media. So we saw, Miami back in the day with Notre Dame. It was Catholics versus convicts. Right now, Cal versus Miami is being coined woke versus Coke. So I have to ask you, College Game Day's there. The energy is flowing. Miami is on upset alert. Bet or pass?
I'm going to go ahead and take the points, so I suppose that means I'm betting in this segment here. I'm going to take the Golden Bears because they can do one thing well, and that is bring the havoc on defense. They're top 10 nationally in multiple havoc ratings. And when you look at what Cam Ward's bugaboo has been his entire career, it's handling pressure. The first time he dealt with real pressure this entire season was last Friday against Virginia Tech. He had multiple turnover-worthy plays. He put the ball on the carpet. He ends up throwing interceptions in that game. It kept Virginia Tech in it. I think the same playbook is going to be utilized here by the Cal defense. They're going to send 5 and 6 at him repeatedly in this game. And when he looks to extend plays against teams that can't get after the passer, that usually means big plays. But when he extends plays against guys who can get to him, he'll make a few boneheaded plays, and I think it'll keep Cal in it, even though they have serious limitations on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, Cam Ward, another Heisman hopeful. That's, his soared up the Heisman ranks. You're looking at this number now. Him, Genty, who we just talked about, among it. But I thought that maybe Cam Ward, an easy schedule, was going to lead to him walking away with the Heisman. But then you talk about last week. I know you were all over Virginia Tech taking the points, and nearly a full-on upset as 17.5-point underdogs, the Va Tech. So this week, we got Cal, we got game day. I think I agree with you. The 10.5 feels a little bit too rich if you're a Hurricane backer. The other one I want to ask you about, Michigan. They've taken down USC and now Minnesota since the quarterback change with Alex Orji under center. They run a lot. That's basically the MO of this team, and they're now number 10 in the country. The college football playoff hopes are still kind of dangling, probably by a thread, but they're still, alive based on the schedule at hand. They're underdogs against Washington on Saturday night. So I have to ask you, Michigan's playoff hopes end on Saturday, bet or pass?
This is a pass for me. I wouldn't say by any stretch that I'm bullish on this Michigan offense after the quarterback change. But when it comes to teams that aren't elite at stopping the run, I'm interested in them mucking games up and relying on their defense. And we saw what Rutgers was able to do last week against Washington, at least on the run game. Monungai finishes with over 120 rushing yards. I think it's going to be a similar game script with Mullings going over 125 in this one. And as long as they can protect the football, I think they're going to continue to win this ugly brand of football. And as you mentioned it, yes, Michigan isn't, grabbing headlines and reworking their offense to such a degree that they're fun to watch, but they have opportunities. A game like this, you get another win under your belt, then you have Illinois who's ranked, you have Oregon, you have Ohio State on the horizon. So it's far too early to write off the Wolverines this season.
Yeah, they have enough marquee matchups down the stretch here to at least, make a name for themselves if they so choose. It's interesting. This game, you'd be so excited about it if you could think maybe the quarterbacks are going to be the same. Nope, Penix, McCarthy, they're into the NFL. The head coaches, nope, they're gone to Alabama and all that. So it'll be interesting to see, if there's any motivation between these two teams, even the wide receivers out of Washington, all onto the NFL. But of course, we can't let you go without a best bet. You are always on BBOC Saturday mornings, 10:30 a.m. Eastern, over on the BBOC YouTube channel. So a little sneak peek. I know you're a G5 expert too. So we got South Alabama. Arkansas State is the game that you circled in particular. South Alabama, a 3-point favorite, a total right around 61.5. How do you see this one playing out, Breeze?
Oh, I love the over in this one. I think this is mispriced by a full touchdown. And the reason for it is that both South Alabama and Arkansas State, financially, their athletic departments are doing well because they had a couple paycheck games. Arkansas State plays Michigan, and Iowa State totally skews their tempo and offensive stats for the season playing against those elite defenses. Likewise, South Alabama goes to Death Valley last week against LSU. They get stuffed in a locker, and they collect their paycheck. But unfortunately, when you look at their offensive stats, took a big hit. But against lousy G5 defenses, both of these quarterbacks can cook. Do we have lousy defenses here? Absolutely. Bottom 20 for both the Jags and the Red Wolves. Jalen Raynor for Arkansas State in games against Central Arkansas and Tulsa, he accounted for just about 600 total yards offense and 5 scores. And Gio Lopez, when he is the starting quarterback against teams outside of the SEC, he's been pretty dynamic this year. How dynamic? The offense has averaged 57 points per game in his 3 starts. So even without his star receiver, Jamal Pritchett, who remains in the concussion protocol, I think this is going to be an up and down game. Both these teams, I think, are going to strive to get 80 plays in offensively, and that's music to my ears for an up and down game, kind of a track meet from the get-go. So I would play this over all the way up to 65.5.
Wow, yeah. I mean, it's such a unique angle that you're taking it, right? Like, you're like, oh, they have a paycheck game. It skews the numbers completely. Feels like maybe the market also taking that too literally, and then you can buy low on certain offenses that have the upside. So it definitely makes sense here. All right, Calabrese. Well, I left one game off the list, off the full screen, off the top. The headliner, it's Missouri against Texas A&M, and I do want to circle back there. I know that you're an alum for Missouri, and I have some photos that I got handy dandy passed down to me of you back in the old days. You can see those right now. There's you back in the old day with Missouri. This is, arguably as big a game as ever. I want to help you commemorate this weekend's game. I want to ask you how you're feeling as your frat star Calabrese himself. I know you know who sent you this one, but how are you feeling ahead of this game? And are you high on Missouri?
I am not high on Missouri. Those pictures would indicate that that's what it used to take to watch Missouri football, a lot of heavy drinking. At this point, I think the offense is kind of pushing me to the bottle as well, because Brady Cook has just not looked dynamic. Luther Burden, he came alive when it mattered in overtime against Vanderbilt, but defenses obviously are just saying we need to do everything we can to limit him. And offensively, the loss of Schrader in the offseason at running back, he was such a pest and somebody who turned 3-yard runs into 6-yard runs consistently. They have a talented backfield, but just no one necessarily has popped in the same way. So I'm still wondering if they're going to be able to do it in a really hostile environment down in College Station. Kyle Field is one of the most difficult places to win in all of college football. So I think this number is just about right. I think the Aggies are deservedly a slight favorite here, but this is a prove it to me game at this point. Mizzou always had a bit of that fraud alert top 10 energy going into this season, because you say to yourself, the schedule is as light as it possibly could be in the SEC. This is their first true test, and I think, if we're being honest, I think there's a chance they get bit by the Aggies.
Well, that's not great to hear, but I listen, I would say down to earth Missouri fan, very critical, very, level-headed when it comes to this game. I do wish you luck, and thank you as always to our podcast producers over there, Matt Mitchell, the head of podcasting, helping us with getting all these photos of Mike Calabrese and the frat star that was. I know that animal's still in there, Calabrese, so enjoy the weekend and good luck with your Tigers, my friend.
Thanks, Charlie.
All right, for your first pick, Brandon, you're going bold here. One of the biggest games on the board. It's one of the tightest spreads on the board, and you're going to go strong on taking a side here.
I am. I'm going to take the Bills against the Texans. And yeah, this one is basically a coin flip. I'm going to grab the money line, minus 108. We're getting money on both sides. For me, this is the one bet this week that I've had in ink since Sunday night. This is the team that, one, I know I believe in. We're buying low on the Bills, even after disastrous last week. And just continuing to sell on the others. We bet against the Texans last week. I think it was the right play. Betting against them again. It's the Stephon Diggs revenge game, right? But which side wants revenge here? I'm not so sure that necessarily should give us a direction. So both defenses are good, not great, I would say. They're top 10, not top 5. That's what the DVOA says. Bills' run defense, closer to average. We saw that go very badly last week. They didn't have their linebackers out there. Derrick Henry is gashing them. Guess who doesn't have Derrick Henry? Houston has not run the ball well at all. Houston's O-line is struggling. The Bills have injuries too, but Laramie Tunsil, I think, is a big miss for Houston if he's continuing to be out. The Texans' run defense is really good. Well, that's pretty good. Buffalo likes to run the ball, but the secondary is beatable there. Buffalo is third DVOA in passing, and you got to trust Josh Allen here. Anything under field goal favorite for Josh Allen. 25, 13, and 2 against the spread for his career, 66%, 2 out of every 3 he covers. And really, just zoom out, take the teams away here. This is just a great spot to back a good team after a blowout loss.
And just a friendly reminder that any pick we give out here, like the ones you've heard from Stuckey, Raybon, and Calabrese earlier on the show, you can easily reference by following us in the award-winning Action Network app under the handle @green.daily. We keep track so you don't have to. And that's going to be all for this Friday. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the nonstop football. I'm going to be back here on Monday at 3 Eastern on the Action app and YouTube channel. We're going to be talking Saints, Chiefs. I feel like this is a great one on deck for us. We'll be back with Action Island as well, so don't you worry, everyone. Have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll see you again on Monday. Get out of here.